It is an honour and a pleasure to speak to you today. My name is Dr. Neil Ingram, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Royal Society of Biology. I have a PhD in genetics and over 40 years of experience in developing biology curricula in England and internationally. I work in the School of Education in the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom. Bristol is in the southwest of England. The Royal Society of Biology, the RSB, is a learned society and a professional association in the United Kingdom that is dedicated to advancing the interests of biology in education, academia, research and industry. Its membership represents the interests of professional biologists in the United Kingdom. The Society has a curriculum committee which I joined in 2015. The committee has produced the curriculum framework document that we will discuss in this presentation. My personal credentials are shown on the screen. I have been involved in biology curriculum development at school, examination and policy levels for over 40 years, and I am an established author of school textbooks. We are very proud of the evolving 5 to 19 curriculum framework document that was published in the autumn of 2021. We would like it to be used to discuss and debate biology curriculum development in the UK and across the world. It is the result of many hours of detailed thought, discussion, research, wide-ranging consultation by a large number of experts committed to biology curriculum development in the UK. The primary focus of today's presentation is the evolving 5 to 19 curriculum framework document and a set of cross-cutting themes that underpin the framework. Evolution is the driver of life on Earth, and our biology curricula should be evolving too as they seek to reflect the new knowledge that is being discovered in the biological sciences. I'm going to tell you about the framework and our thinking behind it. Before I do that, it's worth reminding ourselves what we mean when we refer to a biology curriculum. Educational policy in the United Kingdom is devolved to the individual home nations. The school curriculum for England is different to those from Scotland and Wales. In many countries, including England, policy-level documents define the school biology curriculum. They form what we might call the intended curriculum. But the curriculum is enacted through a whole host of mediating instruments, including examination board specification, textbooks and other teaching resources, lessons and assessments, both summative and formative. All of these things combine to make up the enacted school biology curriculum. The RSB framework is none of the things that you see on the screen, but it is the precursor to all of them. The evolving 5 to 19 biology document sets out 8 recommendations which set down in writing the principles the Royal Society of Biology would like to see guide future development of biology curricula in the home nations of the UK and perhaps internationally. It also provides an organisational framework to show how the Royal Society of Biology thinks the content of the biology curriculum could be structured. What aims did we have when we started to create this framework? Our aims can be summarised in 3 words: entitlement, coherence and progression. The first of those aims is entitlement. We live in a world of amazing biodiversity and of biodiversity loss. We live in a world of vaccines and anti-vaxxers and so on. We believe that young people today are entitled to a biology education that prepares to engage with these issues as well-informed, biology literate citizens. And they're entitled to a biology education that gives them experience of the explanatory power of biology, of how biologists develop explanations, so that these young people can decide whether they want to go on to become the biological scientists of tomorrow. To be entitled, a biology curriculum should empower all students to have an understanding of a set of core concepts of biology, and also an understanding of how biology is done and how it is applied and its impacts on the world. The organisational framework that we have developed proposes that the biology curriculum needs to cover these three dimensions, and this is enshrined in the first of our 8 recommendations. This is not a particularly new idea. For example, the National Curriculum for Science in England has included an understanding of working scientifically and how science works for the last couple of decades. But this new framework formalises the RSB's view that the 3 dimensions must be present in the biology curriculum. The curriculum committees of the UK-based Royal Society of Chemistry and the Institute of Physics have made the same recommendations for their subjects, which also mirrors the approach taken in the Next Generation Science Standards in the US, which resulted from decades of research on developing scientific literacy. The approach is also supported by Ofsted, England's schools inspection authority, and therefore will form the basis of the biology curricula taught in schools in England. The second aim that guided our thinking is coherence. As curriculum developers, you will already be familiar with the idea of what we might call horizontal coherence. This is the level of coherence and agreement between the written intended curriculum and the various mediating instruments that form the enacted curriculum. We have explicitly recommended that the curriculum needs to be expressed clearly enough to ensure that it is teachable and accessible. Again, this is common sense, but it has not always been achieved in the past, so it is worth having that recommendation set down in writing. There is also a need for vertical coherence between the curriculum at different age ranges. This allows for continuity and progression in both teaching and in students developing conceptual understandings. This has not always been achieved in the past, so we have made an explicit recommendation about this. But again, this is not a new idea. Go back just over 20 years, and in the seminal Beyond 2000 report, Robin Miller and Jonathan Osborne pointed out that the curriculum is not just a succession of facts to be learned, but there is a need for an overarching coherence to develop a holistic understanding of major scientific ideas and scientific reasoning. So coherence helps to ensure that there is progression. And progression is the third aim that we chose. The curriculum is a progression model. But progression towards what exactly? In Beyond 2000, the authors referred to progression towards major scientific ideas and scientific reasoning. So what are the major scientific ideas of biology? Some of the most prominent thinkers in science education have considered this question, and Wynne Harlan and her colleagues came up with a list of 15 big ideas of science education. 4 of them relate to biology, and a further 4 relate to how science, including biology, is done. So the framework we have developed consists of 3 dimensions: practices of biology, concepts of biology, applications of biology. Within these 3 dimensions are embedded 7 big questions. How do we study the biological world? What are organisms and what are they made of? How do organisms grow and reproduce? Why are organisms so different? How do organisms stay healthy? How do organisms live together? How do people use biological knowledge? The 7 big questions are mapped into a series of themes that provide coherence and progression across the age ranges from ages 5 to 19. At each stage we mapped our thinking onto existing curriculum documents, especially England's current national curriculum, looking to produce coherent, age-appropriate recommendations that are clear and accessible. Our framework is intended to be the basis for discussion, debate, agreement and disagreement, to inform future curriculum planning in the United Kingdom and internationally. The framework provides a basis for practical and investigative work. The framework provides access to modern and contemporary thinking in biology. The framework provides a basis for understanding all of the different kinds of life on Earth. The framework is an integrated series of documents intended for discussion by policymakers in ministries of education, curriculum developers, examination boards, school curriculum managers, teachers of biology, and even students. Content is developed for each of the big questions at ages 5 to 11, 11 to 16, and 16 to 19. As we worked on the 7 big questions, we became aware that some ideas were important to all of the big questions of biology. These are the cross-cutting themes. We will now go on to think about these cross-cutting themes and how they relate to the main framework document. We will start by thinking about the nature of biology from a philosophical perspective. Planet Earth is a single integrated system that is self-sustaining and self-regulating. It has been a subject of fascination for philosophers, poets and scientists throughout history. Each culture has its own metaphors to describe it. In many cultures the Earth is mother or a goddess such as Gaia. The Earth is a process that changes over time, with a history and a future. It is not a fixed and immovable object. In the same way, living organisms are processes that change over time. Moreover, living organisms are made of innumerable networks of systems within systems. The academic study of biology consists of a network of independent epistemic communities. These communities use specific tools to probe and collect empirical evidence. They have shared assumptions and a shared technical vocabulary. They publish in shared journals, peer-reviewed by eminent elders of their community. They attend conferences in which they share new ideas and seek further funding to continue their research. Historically, these communities have often worked largely independent of each other. This, of course, is why the study of biology is often called the life sciences. Each epistemic community is, of necessity, reductionist, producing thin slices of knowledge, small views of the integrated whole. Rather like a CT scan produces individual images of the body, the images need to be stitched together to produce a representation of the whole intact body. The big questions of biology reflect the work of different kinds of research groups within biology. The philosophical challenge for biology curriculum developers across the world is how to accurately reflect the extraordinarily productive work of the different branches of the life sciences, whilst at the same time allowing students to glimpse and appreciate the integrated whole. Without this, the study of biology becomes a series of disconnected details and facts, which are hard to remember without some form of integrative framework. The Royal Society of Biology Education Committee faced these challenges during its work on the 5 to 19 curriculum framework. It responded by developing cross-cutting themes that weave the disparate threads of knowledge into an integrated cloth. Gradually, over the years of biological education, students acquire increased awareness and understanding of these themes and the bigger picture of biology. So what are these cross-cutting themes that apply to all living organisms? If you think of the study of biology as a fruit tree, then the big questions are the fruits of the tree. The cross-cutting themes are the ideas in the background, underground, beneath the surface, the ecosystem of ideas that support and help to explain the big questions. We think there are three cross-cutting themes: flows of energy, information and cycles of matter, forms of organisation, stability and change. We think that all students have a right to learn about these cross-cutting themes in all of their taught curriculum units. The themes help to build a coherent understanding of biology. Their understanding will grow and progress over the years that they study biology. So what, at the end of their studies, would we like students to know about living organisms? We want them to know that all life depends upon flows of energy, information and cycles of matter between cells and their environment. We want them to know that living organisms form multi-level networks of systems nested within other systems. Molecules, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, organisms, social systems, ecosystems, biosphere. At each level of organisation, new properties emerge that do not exist at lower levels. Life is a property that emerges when all of the systems within an organism integrate and function together. Living organisms live and change over different scales of time. development, reproduction and evolution take place over different timescales. Changes that take place at a lower level of the organisation can cause changes at the higher levels. And changes that take place at a higher level of the organisation can cause changes at the lower levels. Biologists learn to consider bottom-up and top-down causality. At all times, living organisms are in the process of being and becoming, to adapt the philosopher's A.N. Whitehead's thinking. They are stable structures, maintaining their bodies with high levels of functioning organisation. At the same time, organisms are changing, becoming different through growth and development. They may also reproduce, which is another dimension of change. The potential for growth and development is contained within an organism's genome. It is expressed in an environment that is regulated and controlled by the activity of genes and negative feedback loops. Negative feedback loops can operate at any level of organisation or between levels of organisation. One unique feature of the 5 to 19 framework is that it includes a thread called defining life, so that students' understanding of life grows over time. By age 19, students will understand that life is a property that emerges when biological structures are organised and work together in an integrated way to support the functioning of an organism. This is consistent with the view of life in systems biology, that organisms build and maintain cell membranes that allow them to maintain and repair their internal structures, and also to grow and sometimes reproduce. And this is the end of the journey. This is a living cell and also a multicellular organism. Comparable diagrams could be made for both communities and ecosystems. So, the evolving 5 to 19 biology curriculum framework and cross-cutting themes fit together to enable discussions about curriculum planning, with the aims of achieving a coherent curriculum for all students, progressing from the ages of 5 to 19. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy working with the curriculum framework and the cross-cutting themes.